So this tutorial is on simple 3D operations like lofting, some pipes, and sweep. So yeah, there's also some basic transformations going on here, and it'll be a really simple tutorial. So first off, on Rhino, we're going to draw a closed curve, so whatever shape you like. I'm going to make mine almost bean-like, and I'm going to bring that into Grasshopper by typing curve and then setting that one curve right there. And I'm going to go into perspective view. Now what I want to do with the curve is move it on its z-axis. So right above it, type z, and give it a factor of up to 50, so 0 to 50. And let's increase that height. And I'm just going to move this a little bit. And now what I'd want is to scale that geometry into a smaller scale. So we're going to type scale, connect our geometry to the transform geometry to the scale. And it wants a center point, but what the center point right now is the origin and not the center point of the original geometry. So we're going to type in area to get the center point of our transform geometry. So you can see the point right there, and then the centroid into that center point. And as for the factor, it's default 0.5. So I want to control that by creating a slider from 0.00 to 1.00. So 1 is its original scale, and everything else in between is a smaller factor. It's red right now because it is at 0, so let's increase that, and let's do like 0.75 for the factor, and that's our new scale. Now what I want to do after scaling it is rotating it. So I'm gonna type in rotate, gonna connect my geometry in there, and now you can see it's rotating not on its own centroid, but on the world origin, just because the plane right here is world XY. Similar to the scale, we're going to use the centroid and plug it into the plane, so it should rotate on that center point. And as for angle, we'd want to change it to degrees, so we could manipulate the value from 0 to 360, and for easier understanding as well, so you don't have to calculate the radians. And there you can see it's rotating. Now I'm going to hide all the other transformations and keep the rotate and the original curve. Now what I want to do with this is loft between the two. So I'm going to click or double click and search loft, and then connect our rotated geometry, and then connect our initial curve by holding shift and dragging it into that. And now we have created a surface. You can see that it also twists with that rotation, and you can change the height, change the scale of the top one. I'm going to taper it. So that is the loft command. Okay, so after that, I'm now going to show you how to pipe. Similar to the Rhino command if you've ever used it. So I'm just going to hide what we had earlier, and we're going to copy and paste our initial curve right here. And what I want to do is kind of rotate that without rotating it within the Rhino space. So if you want to rotate it in Grasshopper itself, other than the XY plane, we should rotate it in 3D. So what I want to do is sort of rotate it this way, up on itself, and And so yeah, the rotate 3D command wants geometry, an angle, the center point similar to what we had here for our plane, and an axis similar to move. So let's connect that curve, and then I'm gonna copy paste our previous slider for angle and make sure to have this in degrees and connect our slider. So now you can see it's rotating not in the middle of the original curve, but on the X and Y world axis, or world origin plane. So for the center point, we're going to type in area similar to what we did earlier to get the centroid. Connect that right there, so it's moving on its center point. And then on the axis, I'm going to try the Y, the unit Y first. And now we can see it's rotating that way. If you want to rotate it the other way, you could do Y. And then, just for fun, let's show you unit C. It should be relatively similar to the world XY. So I wanted it at unit X, so it stands up right there, almost like a blob with legs. And then what I want to do is give that curve a thickness. So that is what pipe is for. Just type in pipe and then connect our geometry to that. So now you can see that it creates a thickness to that curve. If you want to control the thickness, there is a radius right here. So 1.00 to maybe like 5. It's default at 1, so if you want to increase it, you could increase it like that. And if your curve is not closed, it also has options on how to cap your pipe. But since mine's closed, I don't really care about the capping right now. But it could be a curve. If I right click it, you could have flat or rounded caps at the end of your pipes. So that's how to pipe it. Okay, so I hid all our previous transformations and the pipe command, and now lastly I want to show you sweep. So there is two kinds of sweep, sweep 1 and sweep 2. If you've used it on Rhino, it's similar to the Rhino command. So it would want, the sweep 1 wants a rail and section curves. So I'm going to use this curve. I'm going to hold Alt and drag it and rotate it 90 degrees on the x-axis. And then I'm going to go in top view and then sort of draw a curve for our rail. Really random. And go back to perspective. And on Grasshopper, type in curve, copy that, so then we have our two curves. And we're going to set one as our section curve, set the other one as our rail. So this is what I want to be our rail. So imagine this curve right here kind of following that line and then creating a surface out of it. So I'm just connect that. I'm going to drag this a little bit closer to that rail. And let's scale this down so it can see how it's working right there. There you go. So the closer it is to the curve, it understands that rail more. So I think similar to the array on curve, it understands the base geometry better, closer to the curve, while if it's further away, it'll kind of morph it a little bit. So you can see how that section follows that curve and creates a surface. Now sweep 2 is similar, but you have 2 rails, so if you want a different condition on the left side of your section curve, then sweep 2 is the command you'll use. So I'm just going to hide this, but I'll copy this, turn them on, and then go back in our top view and draw another curve here. Let's make it somewhat different. Press enter, type curve, set that one curve, and then now we kind of have a sandwich over here. So let's move that closer. So rail 1 is our initial curve, and then rail 2 is our secondary curve, and then what is being swept across those rails is this section. And now you can see how that our section geometry follows those 2 rails. And then you could also keep it at the same height. So if we look at it like this, let's see if it changes anything. It's at false right now. We set it to true. Then it is a uniform height. So you can see back there, since it's squeezed, it got smaller. But if you want it a similar height, then just make that true. You could, instead of just right-clicking it, you could also bring in a Boolean toggle. So you don't have to keep right-clicking, you can just turn it on and off. And yeah, that was some simple 3D operations. And thank you for watching the video.